Contact I've had with business figures today and the talkback radio callers I've heard tells me that an extended lockdown will wipe out so many small businesses. The rules are different now. The economic and mental impacts, of course, of virtually shutting down Australia's largest city has its own destructive outcomes. Sydney City Councillor Christine Foster joins me now. Christine, thank you for your time.
Chris?
You could probably appreciate why we've got some Liberal MPs and even the Treasurer saying, stop the lockdown. No, please don't extend it. We can't find COVID if we tried to call it over.
Absolutely. Particularly the businesses in the city of Sydney have been really hard hit by the COVID pandemic. Obviously, work patterns have changed. People aren't coming into the CBD to work in the numbers that they would normally. So the hit on the businesses here has been particularly hard. And to have now an extended lockdown for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks at least, that is just an absolute death knell for some of these businesses. They are really struggling. There's no JobKeeper this time.
No.
There's been no support sadly, there's been no support from City of Sydney Council. I asked the Lord Mayor Clover Moore at our last council meeting, just as the lockdown started, to immediately act to give more support to businesses in the City of Sydney. And of course, unfortunately, she refused to do that. She's just sitting on her hands saying, we'll monitor the situation. Well, the situation is dire. It's desperate for so many
and
of these
City of
businesses.
Sydney Council is flush with cash too, isn't it?
Absolutely. We have $660 million in the bank. There's money to burn for these businesses in the City of Sydney.
What could you do for them?
Well, of course, we could give more small business grants, Chris.
Yep.
We can relieve the red tape and taxes that they're already paying.
Yep.
Stop the parking inspectors patrolling streets, city high streets, where people come to park if they're going to get their essential goods and services. We can give support immediately, but unfortunately the Lord Mayor is sitting on her hands. She refused my amendment to take action immediately. And you're right, there is a lot of money in the bank. We have enough money to provide stimulus in the City of Sydney and still provide the essential services that we need to give to the community.
What the New South Wales has is a $10,000 offer for businesses, and you've got $325 and $500 for workers as well. The longer this lockdown goes on, the smaller that money looks.
Well, that's exactly right, Chris. And unfortunately, I mean, I, like most people, I think, watched the press conference given by the Premier and the Chief Health Officer this morning. The messages that came out of that to me are just so mixed. We're saying that the Premier is saying that we want this to be the last lockdown, and yet the yardstick still seems to be zero community transmission.
Yes,
transmission. So how are we going to get that in the course of a week? If that is our goal, what's going to change over the next week? What you're actually saying, if that's the objective and that's what we need to have, is that this could go on for weeks and weeks.
Yep.
The messages are not clear. They're muddied. They're not clear on vaccinations. Absolutely, vaccinations are the way out of this, but there was no call to action today to tell people to go and have an AstraZeneca shot. Let's stop complaining about the fact that we don't have enough Pfizer. The AstraZeneca vaccination is available to anyone.
Yeah.
The risk of having that vaccination is minimal. Go and get it. There was no call to action for people to do that. We're being told that our schools are safe, and yet the kids aren't allowed to go and have face-to-face classes. What is the message, and what can we expect? And businesses now are left, really, I think, shaking their heads and wondering, well, where do we go from here? How long really will this lockdown last?
What are your thoughts on my conjecture about what has been done? That is, what should have been done is circle the hotspots, and we've already been told the hotspot suburbs today, ring the hotspots hard to make sure that people are in their homes, they're not roaming around for no reason or going off to the cousin's place, not leaving the district to go into the city. Do that hard, and surely we can come out with a better outcome than closing the CBD in the Northern Peninsula and Gosford and Wollongong.
Exactly. I mean, 100% right, Chris. Again, mixed messaging from the government and health authorities. they were very clear today that it seems to be concentrated in southwestern Sydney, and yet they're locking down people in Wollongong and the Central
No.
Coast. You know, what are people supposed to? How are people supposed to react to that? People are trying to do the right thing, but if they've identified that there is a genuine hotspot in a particular area, well, then lock that area down. I don't agree with having police patrols around the community. Checking up on people. I think people need to be asked to be responsible and they need to be left to be responsible. I don't believe in that kind of high visibility police presence. I don't think that's the way we want to run our country in Australia. But seriously, yes, lock them. Tell people that they are in a hard lockdown in those areas that are where identified the hotspots where the transmission is running wild.